Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Chicks, One Show, where we recap and review one currently airing show, an episode a week as it airs. My name is Trisha Ennis. She is Kate Calabro. We are your two chicks. This week's one show is Outlander, Season 2, Episode 7. We are now in the back half of Season 2. Faith.
Back half. Yeah, so Faith is just ironic because it was sad. It was really fucking sad, guys.
Kate cried.
I did cry.
I
but,
did not.
I mean, no surprise on either of those accounts.
Nope,
I cried.
not at all. Not even remotely.
Every fictional character, and Trisha has no soul. So basically what I've been predicting for a couple of weeks comes true. And Claire and Jamie lose their baby. Jamie's arrested. Claire doesn't really care because she's pissed off. Then Claire returns home because cute little Fergus goes to the hospital and brings her flowers and asks her to come home.
Fergus was adorable in this episode.
Yeah.
Like,
and she's
awesome.
Just like, okay. And so she comes home where she learns the truth of why Jamie decided to duel. She also learns that Blackjack really is like a cat. It is not dead.
Not even from the dick wound.
No one's concerned that he got stabbed in the dick because she's like, oh, this means Frank is still going to be alive.
That's one of the few differences between the show and the book.
In the fucking dick. So Claire then is like, I gotta get my husband out of jail. Because now he's just like chilling in French jail. What do they call it again?
The Bastille.
The Bastille at like the pleasure of the king. So Claire hits up Mother
Hildegard.
I got that right. It's one person who I have not created a nickname for because I respect that lady.
One of the only.
I respect her too much.
And her dog.
Yeah. Who was the goddaughter to, I think, and I could be wrong, King Louis's father?
Possibly.
She's someone's granddaughter.
Someone's goddaughter.
Goddaughter. So she's like, yeah, sure, I'll set up a meeting with you and the king, but he's probably going to want to have sex with you.
Just so you know.
Just throwing it out there. So Claire goes, and then it turns into Claire being like the for Frenchie McFrenchpants and Master Raymond, who are on trial for whether they're practicing the dark arts or not. And Claire,
yeah, she was basically an arbiter in a witch trial.
It was kind of like cool because it might have been I was gonna say it was later in season 1. I was gonna say like, oh, maybe it's like almost matching up.
It was later in season 1, but I think season 1 was also 3 episodes longer.
Yeah.
I think it was season 9 was like by the pricking of my thumb.
Episode 9, not season 9. Ooh.
Episode 9. Did I say season 9? God.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I'm awake.
So yeah, that was fun because it was like depressed Claire, then like kind of like parlor games, fun Claire, and then monster depressed Claire.
Monster depressed. Everyone
monstrous depressed, and
everyone was like, after the episode, everyone on Twitter and Facebook and stuff were saying like, give Katrina Balfe an Emmy. And I was just like, I'm watching the episode and I'm like, it's good, but I just don't see it. And then it got to that last scene and I was like, oh God.
Yeah, like up to that point, I'm like, she's handling this pretty well. And then all of a sudden I was just like, oh my Lord. It was breathtaking, like literally, because I was gasping for air because I was crying. Breathtaking performance. So yeah, it was really heartbreaking. Jamie, the only comedic relief in this episode was Jamie's pube beard.
Pube beard. Yeah, those fake beards are pretty horrible.
It was absolutely awful.
Always so awful, bad. Too. Like, always really awful.
Like, somewhere in Portugal, Murta is laughing. Because he's like, you can't fucking grow a beard, you little bitch, you ginger bitch. Because that's pretty much what it was.
Basically, they make jokes about Jamie's facial hair in the book, too, where, like, he shaves it off because it itches. And Claire points out the hypocrisy of him shaving his face and him not wanting her to shave her legs.
Yeah, but if he's walking around like that, I would want him to shave his face. Our myself and Trisha's mutual friend Gianna has read the book, and
The person who keeps trying to spoil Kate.
She keeps trying to feed me spoilers, and I'm being so good. Our very loyal viewers, I don't want to disappoint you. So I'm like, no.
I don't think you should.
No, I can't. My viewers. So it's all for you.
Your
guys.
legions of loyal fans.
Yeah,
your
loyal
legions.
fans. I just come out everywhere I go. They're like, hey. No. She is pretty upset because apparently, see, I don't know because I didn't read the books, and you could tell me. Jamie cuts off his hair.
Yes.
And she's like pissed off that he hasn't cut off his hair. In
the book, one of the biggest things that happens for Jamie after the baby dies is he cuts all his hair off. It's a way of mourning.
Like, what do you mean, like, cuts all his hair off? Like
he cuts all his hair off. He goes from having long red hair to short hair.
Not like Dougal style, like not bald.
Not like shaved his head, no, okay. But just cuts all his hair off so that it's short. And then it grows out again. The book spans about 2.5 years.
So his hair grows back.
Yeah, over time.
Okay. I mean, Sam was in a Hallmark original movie for like the holidays, and he had short hair, and it was blonde, and it was frightening. So I think they saw that, and they're like,
they saw that movie and were like, no.
He needs to keep it longish. It's not even that long.
No, it's not.
He needs to keep it like chin length and red. Because, Google it, guys. It's a little scary. No offense, Sam. You are a pretty perfect specimen of a man, but that was not a good look. He looked like a really bad mannequin / Ken doll. So that's probably what they were like, we can't cut his hair.
We can't have a Ken doll when he's trying to be like the epitome of Scottish perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were surprisingly few, from what I remember, differences between the way that they adapted the book to the show. One of them being Jamie not cutting his hair off. The differences they did have actually ended up affecting a lot of the way that you look at certain things. They didn't draw out the Claire in the hospital stuff as much as they did in the book, which makes sense because it's not super visual. It's a lot of being in Claire's head when she's dealing with having lost a child and this weird thing with the placenta and just all the touching, that it was confusing while reading it. It was very confusing. But she's not dying anymore, so yay. Yeah, they didn't, they shortened that stuff, which I think was good. I think it was a good decision. But one of the biggest things they changed, and I don't remember if we talked about this on air last week or off air, but they changed the circumstances of Fergus's assault.
We might have talked about it. I don't remember.
So we're going to talk about it now, because it actually, I think, affects your view of every person involved in the story.
Yeah. Even get to that part, we should talk about.
Let's talk about the other stuff.
Little stuff, because we're like.
Let's talk about the hospitals.
Yeah, let's go like in timeline order.
Why would we ever do that? We're supposed to jump around, Kate. Right? Jump around.
We do that so often that it's
so often. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Claire wakes up in the hospital, doesn't know where her baby is.
Yeah. And then we learn that the baby didn't make it,
which is really not surprising.
Like, we see like these like fuzzed glimpses of what like was going from Claire being in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
So we know that I honestly don't even know what the fuck his name is. The king's executor was there helping out with the surgery. Do we know what?
Yeah.
Do you know what his name is?
We do, but
I
forget it. It starts with an F. Just call him the executioner.
Ferdinand.
We called Murtaugh Bearded Bessie all last season. I think we can call it.
Now Murtaugh is too embedded in my heart to be anything else than Murtaugh, except for Mo. Sometimes I'll call him Mo.
Anyway, so the
yeah, he's there. Mother Hildegard. There's a nurse that I don't remember ever knowing her name.
I don't know that we ever did.
The dog is there. Yeah. When Claire actually regains consciousness, she's laying in bed and she feels her stomach and notices that longer inside of her. And she starts screaming, rightfully so, for where her baby is. And poor Mother Hildegard has to come in and kind of break the news to her. But she does let her know that they did baptize her and give her a proper Christian name so she could be buried in hollow ground.
They named her Faith.
They named her Faith, which we don't learn until the end of the episode. Right? Yeah.
No, we learned at the beginning.
Oh, I missed that part. And Claire, even though the baby's gone, Claire has developed a fever and they're not waking. And they come in and like give her like last will and testament, thinking that she's not going to make it through the night.
Last rites, but yeah.
But yeah. Last will and testament is something completely different.
It's legal. More legal.
Yeah. She does like ask once, like where Jamie is, maybe twice, where Jamie is, and Mother Hildegard's like, oh, he's in prison. And
yeah, he was arrested for dueling because it's illegal.
It's a pretty big deal here.
A little bit.
Claire's like, well, whatever. I'm really fucking pissed off at him. And Mother Hildegard's like, well, you're married and you need to like find an ocean and dump your hatred for him, and something more poetic than that, but it was about an ocean.
Remind me to have you at my bedside if ever there's something horrible happening and I need poetry.
I'll be like, see you in fucking hell, bitch. That would be like,
you need an ocean. There's something about an ocean.
Something about an ocean.
Maybe you need to go jump in an ocean. I don't know.
Jumping at it, and Claire like does this, even though Claire is like literally dying, she still gives the most Claire response to Mother Hildegard's like beautiful poetry. She's like, there's not an ocean deep enough for to bury it in. So she is pissed. Like she is dying and pissed that everything that Jamie did. And all of a sudden, like while Claire is like literally maybe an hour away from death, in comes monk wearing Master Raymond, who automatically knows what's wrong with Claire. Starts
future doctor
and feeling stuff up because he's from the future. Like he's from the future. Are we even going to like disagree with my theory? Like
I like your theory.
Every episode I get like this little clue, and I don't know it's because I'm so trained from watching like Game of Thrones that like anytime someone says something, I'm like, that's a clue.
You're just parsing it.
Yeah, that's it. I found it.
She said hello, but she used this inflection.
I mean, I know we're not supposed to talk about Game of Thrones, but there was something Jon Snow said like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, that's it. R plus L equals J. Yeah, so like I guess the placenta. Now we took two different things. Trisha, of course, took some version of what happened to Claire and the baby, and I was just like, no, it happened because of that. I took it as Claire. They didn't give Claire enough time to actually pass the placenta, and the placenta was still embedded within Claire and causing the fever and the infection. So Master Raymond, using his special massaging of all the joints and stuff, was able to pull out the placenta. And then Claire was like, all better.
I don't actually know what happened. I don't think you have a choice whether or not you pass the placenta. I don't think it's like, no, we're going to leave it in there.
Well, yeah, no, she's supposed to, but I don't think like after the surgery, there was like, I think they like sewed her up before it came out. There's usually like an hour between like baby and placenta.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember this scene very well in the book because I just remember being confused. Like just this whole weird, because it's described as like Claire in a delirium.
Yeah, like she's half delirious because she's, dying and has like a very intense fever.
So I have an extremely unreliable narrator trying to tell me what's happening. And I'm just like, I don't know. He's got his hands in places.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand, like, even visually seeing it, I was like, okay, this is weird, but because I had a visual. is a little bit.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
assumption is that she was either still hemorrhaging from the. I assume there was a tear, or what had happened before caused an infection because hello, it's 17 whatever, and
What happened before? You mean labor?
yeah, well, labor. I don't know.
She still delivered
She
a baby.
did still deliver a baby. So whether there was a surgery or if it was just what I assume was the placenta pulled away from the uterine wall,
We should also say that neither one of us has had a child or has a medical degree, so we don't really fucking know.
Nope, I just watch a lot of medical dramas.
Yeah.
It happens a lot on TV. Anyway,
That's real.
it's so real. No, so whatever. I think whatever was causing the hemorrhaging, whatever that was, whatever was causing the hemorrhaging, I assume it caused an infection and that he did something that magically cured the infection, which is why her fever broke.
Literally pulls out the placenta.
I wasn't paying that close attention.
And like he has something, and I mean, like I said, I've never had a child, but I always thought the placenta was pretty big. And like it was like
no, I always thought it was pretty small.
Yeah, I don't know. I know people like eat it.
Yeah, some do.
To stay young forever. I'll probably do that because I have a vampire obsession.
You note the True Blood poster.
Anyhow.
Yeah, so like we don't have medical degrees. We don't know. I don't know that we're necessarily meant to know exactly what he did, but if anybody does, let me know because I'm really curious. I've been curious about what he did since I read it because it was so confusing.
I think he just like was able to use the body's pressure points to force the placenta to leave the body.
That's possible, but I just didn't think you had a choice. I thought it just sort of came out. But
well, yeah, like now it does, but I don't know. Like it was the 1700s.
Do you think we evolved in 200 years?
I mean, I think you like chill up in those spears until it plops out. Like in the hospital now. Like I don't know. Yeah, like you chill in like the pushing things, the stirrups. Yeah. And after the kid comes out, like while you're holding the kid and like and that kind of shit, like the placenta just plops out. Like you don't have to push it out. I think it just goes out. Oh no. I don't know.
This week on Two Chicks One Show, Kate reenacts the sound of a placenta hitting the floor. Because no one's there to catch it.
No. I mean, there might be a bucket. I don't know. I've never had a baby. Never been in a room for one. I mean, this is Outlander's fault. Like, I've talked about poop. I've talked about I've talked about nipple clamps. I don't even know. Now I'm talking about placentas. I don't know why. Just thought this was like a time traveling romance. I didn't know I needed like a medical background to understand this fucking show. Whatever. She lost the baby, and the placenta.
She lost the baby. She was dying of some sort of an infection, and now she's not.
So with the placenta, because she said placenta. I don't know.
I wasn't paying that close attention, so you might be right. I'm not arguing with you. Some sort of an infection, whatever it was caused by, I don't think it's necessary to the story. No longer having that problem, not dying anymore. Can apparently now just leave.
But she doesn't.
She has to wait till Fergus makes her come home.
Yeah, and yeah, there's like this dramatic voiceover as her carriage is driving through the streets of Paris, and she says, "Oh well, after that evening, like my body healed, but my spirit and mentally I wasn't, and I laid in that bed for weeks." And then wee little Fergus showed up at the hospital with flowers and asked her to come home, and she said yes. Then he took her home, and then there was like another moment where like I almost cried, but I didn't cry.
With the maid.
When she, and then Magnus. I don't know why I like Magnus. I remember his name. Out of the carriage, and like everyone's so sad, and they all are like bowing, and Suzette hugs her and cries, and then Magnus says like welcome home to her, and then she like bows down to him. It's really cute. And she, Jamie's still MIA. No one really knows where Jamie is. No one's really asking about Jamie at this point.
Everybody knows where Jamie is. He's in the best.
Yeah, but like no one's asking. No one's being like, "Hey, Claire."
No one's like, "You should probably go get him."
Yeah, like, I mean, is he gonna, like, what the frig is the cousin coming home? Cousin's been, like, dealing with the East India trade for a very long time.
Yeah, but he was always going to be for a while. Like,
Okay.
I think it was supposed to be like a year
Okay.
or something.
Um,
It's not easy to get around those areas.
that's true. He might have run into Captain Jack Sparrow.
This is true. He could have.
Yeah. So Claire is having a hard time.
Fergus is sort of like
Yeah.
taking care of her, which is adorable.
He
And
brushes her hair.
yeah, and like, okay, at this point, Fergus is basically their kid.
I mean, does he go with them to Scotland?
Yes.
Okay, thank God.
Because he has nowhere else to go, and Jamie's like, I gotta take him with us.
Yeah, I mean, like, Jamie almost, like, lost his life protecting Fergus, so, like, at this point.
I mean, he's basically their kid. They just didn't raise him until the age of 9.
Yeah. It's a shame they didn't get to him beforehand.
Right? Anyway, Fergus is being
Mhm.
adorable and taking care of her. And then he sort of freaks out when he sees a table with perfumes on it, and she asks him what's wrong, and he says nothing. And then she's walking around at night for some reason and hears him crying out.
Well, she's crying because, she's still dealing with the...
Right. But she's just like walking around the house crying.
Yeah, because she can't sleep.
Right. And she hears him crying out from a bad dream, goes up,
Mhm.
and finally gets him to tell her what happened that caused Jamie to go duel Blackjack. Because
like,
Fergus is like, it's my fault, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, like his cute little French accent. And he, like, it was so, and, like, he was just wanting to get the bottle of perfume to give to Claire.
Yes. And
it was lavender, which is like Blackjack scent, apparently.
I
Loves
guess.
lavender.
Who doesn't like lavender? Lavender is very good scent.
Yeah, but didn't he, like, put it on Jamie too?
Oh, yeah, probably. Because there was, like,
like,
a whole thing about lavender in the last season.
Yeah, like, that's why he couldn't, something to do with, like, that's what helped Jamie pretend like Blackjack was Claire. Wear the lavender perfume.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So, like, Claire realizes, like, oh shit.
That's where this is going, because he said something about the English captain or something, and the Englishman, and then the lavender, and then blah blah blah. Yeah, so he goes to steal the thing. Blackjack pops up and is like, "You're not what I ordered, but you'll do," and then like tries to rape him.
He does.
I guess he does.
Yes, he does.
They're not super explicit about it, but it seems like he was going to. He was.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, huge difference. And Fergus, of course, yelling because, of course, and Jamie runs in, sees what's happening, tries to kick the shit out of Blackjack, gets pulled off of him, and is like, "We must duel!"
Yeah, just starts screaming, "Duel, duel!"
I demand a duel.
Yeah.
And then the duel, which we've already seen. This is what I wanted to talk about because it's one of the biggest changes that they made, a small change, and it completely changes the tone and the way that you look at all of these characters. In the book, they go to the brothel. Fergus used to live there, so he knows all of the women who work there.
Yeah.
So there's like a staging area or room where they all sort of hang out and wait for men to come by and pick out who they want. So he goes in there, and the women are all like doting on him, as they always have been, hanging out. And, so he's having fun waiting for Jamie. Blackjack comes in and is looking around the room to pick out someone that he wants, sees Fergus and says that he wants him because his proclivity is for boys. And Fergus, like when he's relating the story to Claire, he says, I've done it before and I've heard of other boys doing it, so I decided I could make some extra money and it wouldn't be a big deal. And so he goes with Blackjack willingly. Like this whole thing is happening willingly. But Blackjack also doesn't, as far as I can remember, doesn't actually force him to have sex with him. It's oral sex.
Okay.
So obviously still not good.
Yeah, still gross.
Still gross, still horrible. And, Fergus does back out and, doesn't want to do it and is freaking out and does yell for Jamie. But circumstance of it being Blackjack just thrusting himself upon this random kid in his room.
Yeah.
Or it being a transaction, like, it's still horrible, but it does sort of change. Like, it makes blackjack way worse.
Yeah.
And it's more violent. Like, what the act
I think it's more, I think the show creates it more justifiably why Jamie would
why Jamie
challenge
flips out.
Jack for a duel. I
Yeah.
mean, he's hearing. I think it also creates a different. I mean, I know like the relationship between Fergus and Jamie and Claire is strong within the book, but I feel like it might be situation might create a little bit more of a closer relationship because Fergus is happy with how his stature in the Fraser household. So why would he try to seek out extra money? Like it makes sense to me. Like he already has such an important role within the household, and Claire and Jamie take great care of him. Why would he need to like be turning tricks?
Yeah, I mean, and the relationship's not dissimilar in the book. It didn't seem necessarily weird. Like, it was okay. I mean, this kid has grown up like that. He's only been with the Frasers for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't know what's going to happen next week. He doesn't know that he's going to go with them to Scotland and hang out with them for a few years. You know, he doesn't know what's going to happen. So he's a street kid. He's an orphan. I think he just takes advantage of whatever situation comes along.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not to say that it was necessarily consensual or that it was, okay or anything. I just think that it definitely changes your perspective on the entire situation.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't good in the book, but it was way worse in the show.
Yeah.
It also, like you said, I think does justify Jamie's reaction a little more, because who wouldn't do that? You know, if they walked in on a grown man attacking a child.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that, that changes things. And it also, to a degree, to a sort of a weird twisted degree, it makes Fergus's guilt make more sense.
For what happened to Jamie?
For what happened, because he feels guilty in both instances, but in the book where he willingly went along with it up to a point,
mm-hmm.
it makes more sense for him to feel guilty about that because he did make a decision which precipitated this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in the show, he didn't do anything. Like, he went into a room. That was it. Like, you still understand the guilt, but it makes his guilt more tragic.
Because it's just kind of ruining like an innocent. Like,
right. It's that guilt that you hear about. Yeah. It's that guilt that you hear about from sexual assault survivors who say, like, oh, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And it's like, you didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different. It's not bad different. It was just it was a marked difference that I noticed while watching the show. It was a decision that they obviously made, a conscious one.
Yeah.
But so after that happens, Claire's like, oh, I guess I better go free my husband.
I mean, she's still pissed at Jamie.
Oh, yeah.
But she does realize that he had just cause.
Because Jamie is perfect.
Yeah. And I think at this point, she knows that Blackjack is still alive. He's back in England. Yeah. So, I mean, he didn't kill him. So she's like, still like, okay, well, Frank's got like a chance. I don't understand that, even though he was stabbed in the dick. Like, I still don't get how.
She doesn't realize what Jamie did necessarily, because she was busy like dying.
That's true.
At the time.
I mean, she maybe never saw the
book
sword
makes a point of pointing it out. And we'll talk about this later when we talk about
that he was stabbed in the dick?
Yes. Okay. Like, when it's originally described, all Claire sees is that he's bleeding from that general vicinity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is when Claire goes to Mother Hildegard and asks for her to arrange a private audience with King Louis. And when Mother Hildegard's like, well, he's probably going to want sex. So Claire, like, gets all dolled up, gets her hair all fancy, French style, done, and goes to Versailles and meets with King Louis. And it's weird and creepy and uncomfortable.
Extremely weird and creepy and uncomfortable. He has like 4 scenes in this entire show.
And all of them are I don't know. The pooping scene was pretty, like, that was like the most like natural.
It starts with pooping and it ends with transactional sex.
Yeah. So like Claire,
like 4 thrusts and we're done.
Claire makes it clear that like she understands. So like she thinks they're gonna just do it, and then he takes her into like this secret. It's like a really fucking cool room.
It's a really cool room. She walked in and I was like, ooh, stars.
Yeah, it's like almost like what would have been an observatory, but it's not. Like I felt like the dome could open. Like didn't
Right.
it
It
like
was
give
sort of
that
like
feeling?
it was sort of like an old planetarium almost.
Yeah. And like the people were wearing those funky French masks with the long nose that you
I
see in
love
like
those. They
every
creep me out, but I
theatrical.
love them.
Yeah, and you see them like in every theatrical like adaptation of like Shakespeare or anything that has to do with France. Like they're always there.
Yeah. They pop up a lot in Romeo and Juliet adaptations.
Yeah. So Claire is now, because she is, what is it?
La Dame Blanche.
La Dame Blanche.
The White Lady.
The White Lady. And the king knows this. So Jamie's secret really spread around town quick.
Jamie's just telling everyone. It's like, my wife is a really badass white witch.
Yeah,
awesome
the White Witch,
lady.
which is, yeah. And she is now brought into this room to identify between Frenchie McFrenchpants, aka the Count Saint Germain, right?
Comte
Did I do
Saint
it right?
Germain, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
And
Count. Fine.
what was it? What is his title?
It's Comte de Saint Germain. C-O-M-T.
What does that mean?
C-O-M-P-T-E.
Is that a French count?
Maybe. I have no idea. I don't speak French.
Whatever. Frenchie and
Frenchie McFrenchpants.
Frenchie McFrenchpants and Master Raymond and the executor, who I'm now naming Ferdinand, because he looks like a Ferdinand. Is there? I secretly like him because
I love him.
He generally likes Claire. Like he keeps giving her little hints to like save her.
Yeah, he's your friend.
Yeah, and King Louis brought these two guys because they found materials of the dark arts in their possession. So now he's like, you can look into their soul and tell me who's the darker one, pretty much.
Did the whole thing with the Comte being brought in, did that strike you as like out of the blue?
No, because when she first meets Master Raymond, he says something about Frenchie.
Right, like I know that they have a relationship and stuff. It just seemed like all of a sudden, this obvious person who's probably practicing the dark arts, and also this guy that you probably really want dead.
No, I mean, I always, he knew about her stone. He knew a lot. So, I wasn't surprised. I mean, there wasn't a lot of people that we met in France that would be like Master Raymond versus, Louisa. I don't think so. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, no, that's fair. If you're going to put him up against anyone, I guess the comp works. It just struck me as weird. Like, I didn't see any foreshadowing for that being the thing.
I just didn't, what struck me as weird is that we've been playing up how Frenchie's gonna be like this big villain, and it's just over.
It's a bit.
No, the big villain is still Blackjack.
The big villain isn't Blackjack. I think the show is definitely setting up, and has been setting up, the villain to be the prince.
Oh, true.
Prince Charles, because the show has been setting him up as creepily bonkers.
Well, I mean, it's not really a setup. I mean, just look at him.
Right. But I mean, that's how that's the characterization they've played out throughout the whole thing. Whereas when I was reading the book, I didn't get that. I got,
Was Frenchie more evil in the book?
I mean, he wasn't necessarily more evil. He was just, it was the whole time I'm reading the book, I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna be the bad guy. He's gonna let's see how this plays out. And then in the middle of the book, he dies, and I'm like, oh crap.
I mean, yeah, I feel like it was just his storyline was so anticlimactic for me that I was never fully invested in hating him.
I was pretty invested in hating him when I was reading. But he plays, like I said,
while watching the show, were you invested in hating him?
No.
I don't think they gave me enough to be like, oh my god, he's so awful.
No, I agree. It didn't give you, it definitely, I think, played up him as being not very dangerous.
Yeah.
He was more, annoyance than he was formidable enemy.
Yeah. And, the
Whereas,
thing is,
go ahead.
no, finish your thought because mine's a little
Okay.
gonna go off the rails a little.
Okay. Whereas in the book, like I've said this in previous episodes, like they lead you to believe that he might actually be one of the people that assaulted Claire and Mary.
Yeah.
And like he's definitely more like, oh crap, this guy is the bad guy. And then when he dies in the middle of the book, you're like, oh, but then who's the bad guy?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not gonna go completely off the rails because you kind of tied it in. I mean, why when they were attacked, when Mary and Claire were attacked in the alleyway by those the aristocratic gang,
The gang of rich people.
the gang of aristocrats, yeah, the gang of richies, they make it like a point to show you the person that's attacking them has like this scar on their hand. Like they do a crash zoom on this person's hand. Do you remember this?
Yeah, there's the insert shot on the scar.
Yeah. And then, so we're never going to find out? Like, I thought maybe, like, in this scene, we were going to see, like, Frenchie's hand and it was going to have that birthmark. And then we're going to be like, how the fuck's that happen? Like, he must have really raced to the dinner party. But then I'd be like, oh, whatever. Like, we'll just believe it. But no, we don't even get that. So, like, they've been trying to link Frenchie to this aristocratic gang. And, like, Myrta was working on it. But then we never hear anything more about it.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like there's just, like, this big hole that, like, they gave us information for, and then just nothing happened with it.
Yeah, at least so far, because I'm very slowly making progress through the book. I'm near the end, but we're getting there. So far, I mean, that storyline does get dropped, but because they lead you to believe that the Comte de Saint-Germain is one of them, you sort of feel vindicated when he dies.
But then I'm like, I don't know if he was, though.
Well, he wasn't,
like,
because he was at the dinner.
Yeah, but he's saying that, like, maybe, from what I got from the interactions between Jamie and Myrta about it, that he was at the dinner, but there's still people pulling the strings.
Right.
Like, he's, like, almost the leader of the group.
Right. No,
the attack was an initiation attack because they have to rape, like, a virgin or something to be part of the gang, is what I got from it.
Well, the insinuation in the show, at least, has been that he wasn't there, but he was pulling the strings.
Yeah.
Like, he's the reason it happened, but he wasn't the person who did it.
I just feel like a ball was dropped when it came to Frenchie. That, like, I don't know if there was any loose ends tied in the book, but I feel like it was just kind of like, oh.
No, it's pretty much he dies and they leave.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that is very much, true to the source material. It's he dies, Jamie comes back, they leave. But I did feel, like I said, I felt more vindicated. I felt like, okay, good, I don't like this guy, I'm kind of glad he's dead. Sucks the way that they did it, but it worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I didn't want that, like, it's not like I'm like, oh, so sad that he died or anything.
But you weren't rooting for it necessarily.
No, I wasn't rooting, but I just didn't feel anything when he died. I wasn't like, oh yeah, we finally got a bad guy. Like, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, see,
I have more questions.
Whereas when I was reading, I was like, okay, well, he got his comeuppance. That's great. Let's move on. But also, okay, so who is the bad guy? Because either you've met the antagonist and you don't realize it yet, or you haven't met the antagonist yet.
Yeah. I mean, so basically, this whole scene, Claire does like a woody poison thing with the stuff that makes you think you're poisoned, but
bitter cascara.
Really poison. Yeah, so she knows that they'll survive it, but will give the king enough of a show that he might be satisfied. She gives it to Master Raymond first, he survives, and then because Master Raymond is a badass
magician
guy, he's able to sneak poison into the cup before she hands it to Frenchie, where her stone then changes black, so Frenchie knows what's going to happen. Everyone in the room, except for the fucking king, knows what's going to happen. Because clearly he just doesn't notice that the necklace changes.
I forgot what the necklace did, and that happened, and I was like, ooh, magic? Like, did that happen? And then I was like, oh, right, poison.
But when she first went in to meet the king, and she was wearing the necklace. I was like, oh, maybe she'll just detect poison like in his food, and he'll be so grateful she won't have to have sex with him. And then that whole thing happened, and I was like, oh, never mind. Or Frenchie, I don't know, Comte, whatever the fuck they call him.
Saint Germain.
Knows what's gonna happen, and is just like cursing Claire out in French, like being like, "I'll see you in hell," all that kind of
Who
stuff.
sucks the devil's cock is the
Yeah,
yeah.
he said that, which sounds so much more elegant.
It sounds
in
so
French.
much nicer in French.
Yeah. After she does accuse him of being part of the gang riot.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that was like our evidence that he was clearly a part of the attack, because he gets like so defensive and flustered about it. But I mean, it still wasn't enough.
Yeah, it still didn't.
And then Frenchie dies like Joffrey Baratheon.
Writhing on the floor, turning purple.
Yeah. And the king is satisfied, and Raymond is allowed to leave, but he's never allowed to step foot in France again, which is fine because he's going to go to Scotland and time travel and meet Claire in a different time, because he guarantees her several times throughout the episode and throughout the season that he's been in that he will see her again, if not in this life, but in another. Time traveler? Yeah.
Yeah, so that ends all the weird drama.
And then she has to go have sex with him, which is like 3 thrusts. I don't even think he finishes, and then it's done.
He doesn't, and actually, they point out in the book why he doesn't. I had the same.
He doesn't want to have a bastard child by the white lady. Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's literally it. Yeah. I like that she has the same reaction that I had while reading the book, where he's like, "Okay, we're gonna go do that now," and she's like, "But I just did the thing."
Yeah, that's what I was like. I watched this with my dad. I turned to my dad. I go, "Wasn't that enough?"
You watch such interesting things with your dad.
I watch the weirdest things. I'm now watching Gilmore Girls, and my dad is usually there.
That's awesome. I would love to hear your dad's thoughts on Gilmore Girls.
Today it was one where it was like really dramatic, and he just goes, "Wah, wah," whenever they start yelling at each other. He goes, he calls them the summertime girls.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what you're.
But
there.
anyway,
I just don't think he remembers summertime.
Anyway, so that ends all the weirdness. Claire goes to have transactional sex, which is actually how I think she describes it in the book, where he thrusts a few times and then pulls out before ejaculating, because he doesn't want to have an accidental child with someone who is not royal.
Well, I mean, technically, Claire is. She is a lady.
Yeah, but she's Scottish. Well, she's English, but
that's even worse.
Yeah, like it's not. He doesn't want to have this unplanned baby. He just wants to like put his dick in things, like most dudes.
Yeah. And then after they had sex, or whatever that was called,
whatever that was,
okay. Yeah, he'll go. I'll make sure that you're pardoned here as well as in Scotland. So I'm assuming now when they travel back to Scotland, like Jamie is off the hook of everything.
Yeah, basically.
All right.
They can now freely travel back to Scotland, and Jamie is off the hook.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because you don't have to worry. Yeah, so that she goes back home, Jamie arrives with his horrible beard.
Yeah, like
which was like a big reveal that he had a beard, and I was just like, this is not something you want to be like dramatically revealing to the audience.
It was so bad. It was
like this dramatic rack focus to like, he's been in there for some months, because of course he has.
Yeah, it's like the only way we can show time passing is
men grow facial hair.
I feel like he was there for, I don't know. Oh god, it was just so gross. It was like a chia
bad.
pet.
It was like a chia pet. It was a bad beard. It was a horrible beard.
Yeah, if I were Claire, I'd be like, turn around, shave that shit off, and then come talk to me.
Like, I can't look at you. I'm gonna avert my eyes.
I can't like with you looking like that.
Then they have my least favorite conversation they've ever had, I think. It just made me so angry at Jamie and at the writers and just at everything that was happening, and kind of at Claire, but mostly at Jamie. Because like,
but, I mean, Should we complain though? Because we complain when Jamie's too perfect. So I feel like we're just like never pleased.
I am never pleased when it comes to Jamie, but I don't. My problem isn't that this is a flaw for Jamie. It's that it doesn't seem like it's being written that way.
Yeah.
It seems like this is what you're supposed to think. Like, this is good. So we should probably have talk about what this is. Jamie and Claire have this horribly tense conversation where, by the way, best scene of the whole episode.
Oh my god.
Is Claire? She says it was a girl. Mother Hildegard named her Faith.
I was like even awkward. Like she won't even tell him. Like he has to they're standing in this room, awkward, and like he's asking about the baby, and she's just like fucking ignoring him.
She's still pissed.
And then finally she goes, "It was a girl," and then he asks, "Oh, do you hate me?" And she's like, "Yeah, I hated you." And then she goes on to describe the baby, describe everything that happened.
Yeah,
and
Mother Hildegard, had her hold the baby, and it gave me a whole new level of respect for Louise.
Yeah, that I didn't think we were ever gonna get.
I didn't either, and but I knew she played a part. She plays a part in the book too, but she plays a different part. She's a comforting figure, but she takes Claire away from the hospital and takes her to her summer house or whatever, and has her stay there, and that's where she heals and starts to get over. Whereas in the show, I really liked the decision they made to have her show up at the hospital and be the one that to let go, because it's this level of this superficial character that we've gotten to know that's really friendly and really close to Claire and willing to do this horribly uncomfortable thing.
That I think was a great character decision and maybe even actor decision during the scene. And Claire's been her baby for all day. Mother Hildegard, when in the beginning of the episode, when Claire begins to freak out, where's my baby? Where's my baby? Mother Hildegard lets her hold the baby. She lets her see what she looked like. She does say her eyes were closed, so she didn't get to see the color of her eyes, but we can all safely assume they were probably blue. Claire and Jamie both have blue eyes.
So they were blue.
Genetics. Genetics. She had red hair. She was perfect. And Louisa comes in. I guess they kind of tell her we need to take the baby from Claire. And I guess none of them really wanted to do it. I mean, it would have been awkward. It would have been awful to do that if from someone that didn't know Claire. This thing where she watches Claire holding Faith for a while with Mother Hildegard, and then she taps her own stomach because Louisa is pregnant. So I think there's a deeper connection now between Claire and Louisa, because Louisa is now pregnant and she realizes that she understands what Claire must be going through, which was, I think, I don't know if they made that relevant, that Louisa was the scene that she was saying. I think just that little breathe and tapping her own stomach created a little bit more of a depth to Louisa that we didn't see before.
Yeah, I agree. And all of a sudden, I went from, because I didn't really care about the character. It wasn't that I didn't like her necessarily. I just didn't care. And all of a sudden, in this one scene, I'm like, oh crap, I like this character, and it's too bad because they're leaving France.
Yeah.
And we're not going to see her probably ever again.
Yeah.
But I did think they did a really good job with that scene. It was amazing. It was great. And I like that they intercut Claire singing to the baby over the scenes of Claire talking about the baby to Jamie, because it was just stab and twist.
So fucking awful. Oh my god.
It was just, I understand why people cried.
I mean, I don't think I could ever watch that episode again.
It was tough. It was good. It was easily the best episode of the season because it was, a standalone episode. But anyway, we haven't gotten to the part yet. So after this horrible conversation, Claire talks, Jamie says, "Do you hate me?" And she says, "Of course I did." Did being the operative word, past tense. She's like, "But I realized that, it wasn't your fault. It was," and she's talking about it was my fault. I put Frank above our family, and And Jamie says, "Well, Frank is your family." And I'm like, "Okay, Jamie, you don't get to talk about that right now."
Yeah.
And she's like, "I went to the woods. I did all this stuff. It's my fault." Over and over, she's saying, "It's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault." And then Jamie says, "I already forgave you a long time ago for this and anything else you could possibly do." And it's meant to be like this moment where, wow, Jamie is a great person. And in my head, I'm going, dude, the right answer was it's no one's fault.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if I'm more angry. I'm angry at Claire for just admitting that it was her fault. Like, I think I'm pissed at both of them.
I'm pissed at both of them. I'm more pissed at Jamie because he was in the position to reassure her and didn't.
Yeah.
Like, I totally understand why Claire is saying this was my fault because it happened in her body. Obviously you're going to be blaming yourself. Like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? It was my fault that this happened. And Jamie's reaction is basically, yes, it was, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Which was just like, no. And it doesn't, my problem isn't so much that Jamie says it, but that it seems from the way it's played that you're
Claire's
supposed
okay
to agree with him.
And that Claire's okay that he wasn't like, oh no, it's both of our faults or it's no one's fault.
Yeah, either it's both of our faults because I created the situation that made you this stressed out, or it's neither of our faults. We don't know what would have happened if you hadn't gone there. We don't know what would have happened, blah, blah, blah. And it pissed me off so much because I'm just like, it's not her fault, and you're not saying that.
Yeah. I mean, she's just,
like,
yeah. I mean, it wasn't like a very comforting, like, reunion.
No, it was, I mean, he literally is just like, yes, it was. It's okay, though. I am nice enough that I've already forgiven you for anything you could possibly do, including killing our child. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's just, it was the wrong answer. It was horrible. I didn't like it. It does not make me like Jamie anymore. And not for a reason that, not for like, oh, he's flawed, maybe he'll come around. It was, no, this is apparently the right answer. Like, that's horrible.
It was just like a dick answer. It was just like
it was a horribly dick answer. And the fact that it was played off as the correct answer is what pisses me off.
Almost like, he didn't almost. He a little bit redeemed himself because Claire does, like, how are we supposed to, like, live with ourselves? He does, like, that, like, responsible, we're supposed to live with ourselves together, and we're going to carry this burden between the both of us, like, kind of thing. You're like, that's okay. But, I mean, you're still, like,
right. Yeah, like, that response was okay. That would have been the right answer if he hadn't already done this horrible thing that I now hate him for.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I wanted to point out as another difference in the book that made a huge difference in my mind. This conversation plays out very differently. Claire does the same thing. Essentially, she forgives him because she's like, it's not your fault. You something that you had a reason. It makes sense. I made an impossible request of you, to not kill this person. I put, she basically says the same things. I put Frank above our family. She's like, but then she's like, but I have to tell you, Blackjack isn't dead. Like, you didn't actually kill him. And he says,
Jamie doesn't know.
No, Jamie knows. So he says,
in the show?
In the book.
Oh, because he doesn't know in the show.
I don't know if he's supposed to know or not in the show. They didn't bring it up. She doesn't mention it. And he says, no, Claire, I did break my promise. She's like, you didn't break your promise. He's not dead. And he says, no, Claire, I did break my promise. I did something worse than that because of, he knows exactly what he did to him. He's like, because of where I wounded him, he's never going to be able to have kids. So I've effectively already killed Frank. And he, like, apologizes for that.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in the show.
Jamie is way more remorseful in the book. Like, he feels bad that he broke his promise. Like, that's the worst thing. In Jamie's mind, the worst thing he can do is break his word. And he says, like, he apologizes profusely for breaking his promise to Claire. And she's like, but you didn't. He's still alive. And he says, no, I did. I made it so that he could never have children.
That didn't happen in the show, right?
Not at all. Not even remotely. They didn't bring out Blackjack at all.
Okay. So the only mention of Blackjack was when Mother Hildegard told Claire in the
Tells Claire
hospital.
that he's not dead, yeah. So I
And he's
assume
back in England.
that it's going to come up later.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be another stupid thing like, oh, I haven't told Jamie he's still alive. We have to protect him. Again.
Yeah, unless like Claire just forgets because she was like delusional.
Maybe. I don't know.
She should just play it off like she didn't remember.
Oh, I don't remember. I was dying.
I was in the hospital after, I lost your child.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so the two big differences, like, because I actually felt one of them was a good choice. I felt the whole Fergus thing was not a bad choice, but I do feel like that last conversation was just not good. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. But
I don't like it.
Claire says she wants to go home, and home meaning Scotland.
Meaning Scotland. So we get to go back to Scotland next week, and you are happy.
Not that like France wasn't okay, but I mean,
but every single week you ask me, "Are we going back to Scotland next?" And I'm just like, "Not yet."
It just wasn't. I mean, I think I just had a lot of high hopes for France, and it didn't really deliver.
No, pretty much the second episode, I think, delivered everything that we could have wanted from France.
Yeah.
The pooping king, the nipple piercing.
Like, that was it. Like the fireworks at Versailles. We never saw the Minister of Finance again, which was such a great character. Like, there was a lot of didn't get to say goodbye to.
Yeah.
But before they sail off to France, they do visit the grave of Faith Fraser.
Yep.
And it was sad. And Claire, like, even though she was like in mourning, like wore this gorgeous fucking mourning gown with like the veil. And Jamie
everything
leaves.
Claire does is gorgeous.
Yeah. And Jamie leaves one of the spoons, the spoon that had St. Andrew, which I believe is the patron saint of Scotland, at her gravesite.
Yeah, he said something about having a Scottish something if she's going to be buried in France.
Yeah, that's gotta suck. I mean, why couldn't they take her back to Scotland?
Rot.
But people transport bodies all the time. Whatever.
It would smell really bad.
It probably already smells really bad.
This
like everywhere. The world smells really bad at this point. I can only imagine like what Marta smells like. To Scotland. And with it, more predictions.
Yes. Go for it. I can't make predictions. I know what happens.
How many more hours of the book?
I'm almost done. The book is 39. It's 39-hour audiobook. I have 7 left.
They couldn't just make it like an even 40.
I'm 32 and a half hours in. It's almost 40 hours.
Yeah.
And I have like 7 left.
So
I'm so close to the end.
Like, how many chapters is that?
I can tell you now, actually. I can just pull it up on my phone real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I am on chapter 44.
Oh my god.
Are 49 chapters, so I am 6 chapters from the end. Yeah, the chapters are like an hour and 45 minutes long, depending on the chapter.
Dear Lord.
Yeah, it's a long-ass book. It's so long and so dense, and so much happens that I'm just like, I don't care.
I mean,
like, I really don't care.
Coming attractions for next week?
I did not. I never get to see the coming attractions.
The only thing that matters is that Jenny Fraser is going to be.
Jenny Fraser is back. Yeah. Kate's happy. Jenny is, I think, everyone's favorite character. She's awesome.
Jenny and Myrta in the same scene.
Oh my god.
And if they just throw in Fergus, I'll be like, set.
Fergus does go with them, so.
So, you probably would know more from watching the preview than I do, but they travel back to Scotland. They're at Lollybrook, and they meet with, I guess, another lord in the Highlands who is like, I want to say like one of the biggest contributors to the Jacobite trade. I guess Jamie's still like pen pals with Prince Charles, because Prince Charles is still sending letters being like, hey, I'm going to Scotland. See you soon, bro. Like that kind of stuff. Jamie wants to go make a deal with this guy. I didn't catch his name in the 30-second preview.
You won't catch his name in the episode either because we never do.
Okay.
No, we just never do.
Wait, his name is.
You and I never get the names of any characters.
Oh, I thought you meant just like we never learn his name.
You and I never learn names of characters.
Okay, now I got you. Deal, and like to like stop financing Prince Charles, and so you give me Lollybrook, or you let me have sex with your wife, and then we don't know what Jamie picks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, same kind of drama, just a different episode, pretty much.
Basically the same thing. It's like a formula. They want to make a deal. The person wants to take advantage of Claire. Jamie gets mad.
Yeah. Jamie just kills people, and then it's like, or maybe Jenny will kill him. I mean,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, Jenny killed people before. Like she just had a baby for like hours.
Right, and like pulls guns out of her bra.
Yeah, most painful fucking scene I've ever seen in my life. And then she's like on a horse with guns just everywhere. Like, who gives birth naturally and then is like, let me go ride a horse now? Oh God. Everything about that is just wrong. So yeah, I mean, awesome. My main predictions are the same as always. Dougal, Colin, and Dougal and Jamie are gonna duel it out for Colin's place. Master Raymond try. There has to be a Randall family secret because there's no way fucking Randall is having children. Unless like he like just hit a ball sack. And then
he hit it in just the right spot.
Just hit one. So Blackjack's still able to produce
one working testicle.
Yeah. So he's still able to produce sperm, just not that much. But he has just enough to get Mary knocked up.
For reasons.
So I don't know. Yeah, for reasons that we don't know, which would also probably be a Randall secret. So there has to be a Randall family secret somewhere in there.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's what I'm sticking with. Did you want to talk about the whole, like, people still thinking that the baby that Claire time traveled with was the baby that we saw?
The thing in the beginning where it was like her.
We didn't even talk about that.
We didn't even talk about Brianna because I just didn't think it was necessary. Like,
it was
stupid because it just assumes that your audience isn't following what's happening. Like in the very first episode,
or like does everything done on the screen.
Like in the very first episode, Claire shows up in Scotland and it's like a big surprise. First of all, she's been gone for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a big surprise that she's pregnant because she's not very pregnant. She's like a month or two along. So like she knows she's pregnant, but nobody else can tell. But for some reason, you're supposed to think that this kid at the beginning is the kid that she's definitely not having in that episode, even though she was like ridiculously pregnant. I don't. Do you really think your audience is that dumb? Did you just want to give audiences a glimpse of the kid? Like, I don't understand. It was stupid. It was stupid. I hated it. It was stupid. It was just like a wasted 5 minutes.
I mean, yeah.
It was stupid. The kid was cute, but it was stupid.
Yeah. But I mean, to justify the point of my dad, when he was like, I have to explain the timeline to my dad all the time. Like, he's not getting it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess there are people out there that aren't following the timeline. Because he's like, sees the little girl. He goes, oh my God, that's Jamie's kid. I go, what? I go, where were you in episode?
It is. It's just not that kid.
Did you not watch the first? Like, what happened? Because that kid has red hair. That's Jamie's. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They set it up in the first. It's like a huge chunk of the first episode where Frank is like, "I will raise another man's child." Like, it was a whole thing.
Sometimes I was like, "What? Where were you? You here?" Because then he said something like, "Oh." I'm like, well, we know that like something happens with the Randalls because Frank is still alive in the future. And my
But
dad's
we
like, how do
also
we know?
don't really understand how time travel works.
Yeah, and my dad's like, how do we know that? And I go, because we saw Frank in the future.
In the first episode, when she goes back to the future and Frank is there.
Completely over his head.
So obviously, nothing they do in the past makes Frank not exist.
That's what I mean. I go, clearly nothing, like this, nothing really mattered. Like this whole thing doesn't matter. Because Frank is alive and we know that. Claire doesn't know it, but we know.
Yeah, it's called dramatic irony.
Getting it. I had to like leave the room.
So. I would too. I would be like, are you kidding? Like,
I mean, you're an intelligent person. Like, it shouldn't, like, he just doesn't, when anything has to do with time travel, it's just like.
Time travel is admittedly tough to grasp, especially in something like Outlander where they don't seem to have any rules because no one knows the rules. Like, I think that's the best way to approach time travel, like storylines, that there are no rules.
Yeah, because they never really fully explain it.
Right, because no one knows what the real thing is. I mean, obviously, I think that the story operates under the idea that time is a continuum where nothing you do was ever going to change the future because you already did it.
Yeah.
So Claire always went back. Claire always existed in 1743.
Mm-hmm.
But just the number of people who can't grasp that concept.
And it's like, I feel like this is literally the easiest version of time travel.
It is! Because there's no like, jumping back and forth.
Yeah, you're only going, it's 2 timelines. You, as long as you're in Scotland, it's how long you were away from the 40s. So there's no like, oh, it was only 2 minutes. And I'm back.
Right, there's no like coming back and it's only been an hour.
Yeah, like it's not like it's the same. Her just in 2 different times. That's it. That's all you got to understand.
Yeah, I mean it's the version of time travel that requires the least effort from the writer's standpoint.
Yeah.
Which is great. I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
But
it's the kind of time travel I like, but still gets people's heads scratching.
I just don't understand that there were people who didn't realize that that child was not the same child.
But do you want to talk about how like you automatically knew?
Oh yeah, well I was saying this before we started rolling. But I think it points to the weird eccentricities of our individual characters.
Which is good because we are individuals.
We are individuals, and as we said at the beginning of the show, I have no soul. When I don't know when I realized.
And I only have feelings for fictional characters.
Yes, but in this case, it tracks. I don't know when I realized that the child that Brianna, I'm just gonna start calling her Brianna because we know she exists.
Yeah, we know her. Yeah.
That Brianna wasn't the child that Claire is pregnant with at the end of the first book, Outlander. That I don't know when I realized that there were 2 different kids, but the second I realized that this was not the same kid, my immediate thought was, okay, when does she lose the baby?
Yeah.
Like, at what point does she miscarry, or does something horrible happen that forces her to miscarry, or does the baby die? Whereas Kate's immediate reaction was 2 things. It's gotta suck to have to leave a 2-year-old, but at least Jamie has someone with him.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I think you said you.
I think like maybe. I don't know. I mean, you could probably look back in these episodes. I think, but before around episode 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I think is when I started being like, I don't think this baby's gonna make it.
There's a moment in like I think our commentary for episode 3 or so where you say, you know, it's really gonna suck if this baby dies. And I was just in my head, I'm thinking, like, the first time you said that it's got to be really hard for her to leave a toddler, in my head, I literally thought, I never once thought that. Never once in my mind was this kid ever alive. And I think that I think that's an interesting insight into how both of our brains work.
I think it would have been
I don't know what it
interesting.
says about me, but
I think it would have been interesting if they let I mean, I know from like a story standpoint, it makes a little bit more sense that Faith passed.
It's just simpler.
Yeah, but I do think it would have been interesting for her to have lived, or if it was a boy, for him to have lived, because then there would be a completely different dynamic with Claire after she traveled to the 40s. And maybe is why she was so upset. I think what happened was if she had a child that that she left behind with Jamie and she traveled, I feel like she wouldn't have been able to stop searching. Because I know if I were a mother, I had to leave a child, and I would need to know what the outcome of that child's life.
You're saying like there's no way she makes that agreement with Frank in the first episode.
Yeah, like I feel like as soon as that happened, then I was kind of like, maybe something's up, because I feel like she would never stop. I mean, she's waited to be a mother for so long that for her just first off to leave a kid and then not to find out what actually the outcome of that child's life, I don't think she would have been able to make that agreement with Frank.
To not track down her descendants.
Yeah, to track at least that child. Like, I don't think that's why I was like, this is weird. If she had a kid, why wouldn't she want to continue to find out what happened to him or her?
Yeah, and I think that's something, you know, really interesting to like glean from those scenes. It was never my thought process. Like I immediately was like,
I also think it just like, I know we're mad at Jamie right now, but if Jamie did survive, and clearly he does survive the Battle of Culloden, because I mean there's 9 fucking books.
Something happens.
Yeah. I thought it'd be a nice thought if Jamie had a child that was his and Claire's to at least pass down Lollybrock with, to have a family, knowing like he knows that now his wife and his unborn child has traveled back through time. So that has to be hard. And I know I've asked you if he ever, we don't really know, but I don't believe he ever remarries throughout the series.
Like, I don't know.
Like that's just a little bit sad. So I was just holding on hope that like he had like a little piece of Claire with him.
I was actually thinking about that. Like, you know, I don't know what happens in future books, as I shouldn't. I haven't read them. I've barely read this one. You know, so I don't know what happens. I don't know if they get reunited. I don't know if they do, how they get reunited. You know, maybe one of the future books is just Jamie. I have no idea. Don't spoil it for me, by the way, people in the comments.
I'm still holding on to the thought that was Jamie in episode 1. That sees Claire in the hotel that Frank runs into.
Right. The like mysterious stranger guy in the first season that we never got any closure with. He was like in a couple episodes and then never appeared again.
It was just the one.
Was it just the one? Yeah, it was probably just the one.
Unless he was there when Frank got beat up in the alleyway, but I don't think so.
I don't know that he was there, but they mention him in that other Frank episode in the first season.
Yeah.
But you know, so I don't know what happens, but I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be weird if, say, like, you know, later Claire travels back through the stones and she finds Jamie and he's remarried? Like, wouldn't that be odd?
I mean, like, I feel like she has to travel back through the stones.
I have no idea.
Doesn't Brienne, like, don't they go to Inverness because Brienne wants to travel back?
No, we'll get there. I don't want to talk too much about what happens with Brianna, other than you know what we've seen of that like 5-year-old version of her.
Yeah.
There's stuff that happens, but no, that's not it. Other things happen. We will find out. It's only a few episodes away. We're halfway there. Living on a prayer. We've also been talking for a very long time, so I think we should wrap things up. We've heard your predictions. We've talked about the fact that I have no soul, so I think this is a good place to end it. So if you have any thoughts about this episode of Outlander, please leave them in the comments, either here on the video, on the website, allgeektome.net. On Twitter, I am at Kate Calabro. I am at Trisha Ennis. She is at Kate Calabro. Don't go mixing those up.
Yeah. We have pictures. We have pictures just in case.
You have pictures in case you're curious.
In case you're confused.
Hashtag 2chicks1show with the numbers, not the words. On Twitter, and we would love to hear your thoughts. No spoilers for future episodes, no book spoilers, especially not past Dragonfly and Amber. We're trying, as we said at the top of the show, we're trying to keep Kate unspoiled because it makes these conversations much more interesting when she's wrong.
Yeah, but I've been pretty right. This season
You've been pretty right. You've been wrong on a few things, but you've been pretty right. And it's just more entertaining for me to hear what you say, so.
And I'm trying so hard not to be spoiled.
So hard. So we will see you next time. So long.